The King of Schnorrers by Israel Zangwill. Read by Adrian Pretzelis. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to find out how you can volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.
The King of Schnorrers by Israel Zangwill. Chapter 6. Showing how the King enriched the Synagogue. The Synagogue of the Gates of Heaven was crowded. Members, orphan boys, Schnorrers, all were met in celebration of the Sabbath. But the president of the Mahamad was missing. He was still inconvenienced by the effects of his stroke, and deemed it most prudent to pray at home. The Council of Five had not met since Manasseh had dissolved it, and so the matter of his daughter's marriage was left hanging, as indeed was not seldom the posture of matters discussed by Sephardic bodies. The authorities thus passive, Manasseh found scant difficulty in imposing his will upon the minor officers, less ready than himself with constitutional precedent. His daughter was to be married under the Sephardic canopy, and no jot of synagogal honour was to be bated the bridegroom. On this Sabbath, the last before the wedding, Yankele was to be called to the reading of the law like a true-born Portuguese. He made his first appearance in the synagogue of his bride's fathers with a feeling of solemn respect, not exactly due to Manasseh's grandiose references to the ancient temple. He had walked the courtyard with levity, half prepared from previous experience of his intended father-in-law to find the glories insubstantial. Their unexpected actuality awed him, and he was glad he was dressed in his best. His beaver hat, green trousers, and brown coat equalled him with the massive pillars, the gleaming candelabra, and the stately roof. Da Costa, for his part, had made no change in his attire. He dignified his shabby vestments, stuffing them with royal manhood, and wearing his snuff-coloured overgarment like a purple robe. There was, in sooth, an official air about his habiliment, and to the worshippers it was as impressively familiar as the black stole and white bands of the cantor. It seemed only natural that he should be called to the reading first, quite apart from the fact that he was a Cohen of the family of Aaron, the high priest, a descendant that, perhaps, led something to the loftiness of his carriage. When the minister intoned vigorously, "The good name Manasseh, the son of Judah the priest, the man shall arise to read in the law," every eye was turned with a new interest on the prospective father-in-law. Manasseh arose composedly, and, hitching his sliding prayer shawl over his left shoulder, stalked to the reading platform, where he chanted the blessings with imposing flourishes, and stood at the minister's right hand while his section of the law was read from the sacred scroll. There was many a man of figure in the congregation, but none who became the platform better. It was beautiful to see him pay his respects to the scroll. It reminded one of the meeting of two sovereigns. The great moment, however, was when, the section being concluded, the master reader announced Manasseh's donations to the synagogue. The financial statement was incorporated in a long benediction, like a coin wrapped up in folds of paper. This was always a great moment, even when inconsiderable personalities were concerned, each man's generosity being the subject of speculation before and comment after. Manasseh, it was felt, would, although a mere Schnorrer, rise to the height of the occasion, and offer as much as 7 and 6pence. The shrewder sort suspected he would split it up over 2 or 3 separate offerings to give an air of inexhaustible largesse. The shrewder sort were right and wrong, as is their habit. The master reader began his quaint formula, "May he who blessed our fathers," pausing at the point where the Hebrew is blank for the amount. He span out the prefatory "who vows," the last note prolonging it like the vibration of a tuning fork at a literal pitch of suspense. It was a sensational halt, due to his forgetting the amounts or demanding corroboration at the 11th hour, and the stingy often recklessly amended their contributions, panic-struck under the pressure of imminent publicity. "Who vows—" The congregation hung upon his lips. With his usual gesture of interrogation he inclined his ear toward Manasseh's mouth, his face wearing an unusual look of perplexity, and those nearest the platform were aware of a little colloquy between the Schnorrer and the Master Reader, the latter bewildered and agitated, the former stately. The delay had discomposed the Master as much as it had whetted the curiosity of the congregation. He repeated, "Who vows 5 livras?" He went on glibly, without a pause, "for charity, for the life of Yankov ben Yitzchok, his son-in-law," etc., etc. But few of the worshippers heard any more than the 5 livras, £5. A thrill ran through the building. Men pricked up their ears, incredulous, whispering one another. One man deliberately moved from his place towards the box in which sat the chief of the elders, the presiding dignitary in the absence of the president of the Mahamad. "I didn't catch. How much was that?" he asked. £5, said the chief of the elders shortly. He suspected an irreverent irony in the beggar's contribution. The benediction came to an end, but ere the hearers had time to realise the fact, the Master Reader had started on another. "May He who blessed our fathers," he began in the strange traditional recitative. The wave of curiosity mounted again, higher than before. "Who vows—" The wave hung for an instant, poised and motionless. "5 livras." The wave broke in a low murmur, amid which the Master imperturbably proceeded. "For oil for the life of his daughter Deborah," etc., etc. When he reached the end there was a poignant silence. Was it to be da capo again? "May He who blessed our fathers—" The wave of curiosity surged once more, rising and subsiding with this ebb and flow of financial benediction. "Who vows 5 livras for the wax candles." This time the thrill, the whisper, the flutter swelled into a positive buzz. The gaze of the entire congregation was focussed upon the beggar, who stood impassive in the blaze of glory. Even the orphan boys, packed in their pew, paused in their inattention to the service and craned their necks toward the platform. The veriest magnates did not thus play piety with £5 points. In the ladies' gallery the excitement was intense. The occupants gazed eagerly through the grill. One woman, a buxom dame of 40 summers, richly clad and jewelled, had risen and was tiptoeing frantically over the woodwork, her feather waving like a signal of distress. It was Manasseh's wife. The waste of money maddened her. Each donation hit her like a poisoned arrow. In vain she strove to catch her spouse's eye. The air seemed full of gowns and talks, and farthingales flamed away under her very nose without her being able to move hand or foot in rescue. Whole wardrobes perished at each benediction. It was with the utmost difficulty she restrained herself from shouting down to her prodigal lord. At her side the radiant Deborah vainly tried to pacify her by assurances that Manasseh never intended to pay up. "Who vows—" The benediction had begun for a fourth time. 5 livras for the Holy Land. And the sensation grew. "For the life of this holy congregation," etc., etc. The Master Reader's voice droned on impassively, interminably. The fourth benediction was drawing to its close when the beadle was seen to mount the platform and whisper in his ear. Only Manasseh overheard the message. "The chief of the elders says you must stop.
This is mere mockery. This man is a Schnorrer, an impudent beggar."
The beadle descended the steps, and